Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert with the Ted Show. We are back. I am excited to have this young lady on, and by young, I mean she is young, but she is certainly wise. Coach Oriana Guevara. Hi, Oriana. How are you?
Hi, Ted. I'm doing great. How are you?
I am great. We were talking before we went live. We obviously have been dancing around the same 6 degrees of circles and separation for a while because when I posted about you, everybody and their brother started messaging me, which is a great sign. That's a positive thing. And so I love this topic. I did a little bit of research and I saw the work that you do is really awesome. But I absolutely want to talk about manifestation, manifesting the right relationships, high-powered people. But before we do that, you know the drill. We want to know a little bit about you. So tell us a little origin story on Oriana.
Yeah, so I was born in Brooklyn, but raised here in Central Florida. So I'm definitely a Florida girl. Went to school here, University of Central Florida, and I did my graduate studies at Rollins College in Winter Park. And also worked there for about 13 years. My background is mostly in human resources and higher education administration. And I spent the last 4 years of my career there doing a lot of work around relationships and particularly reducing violence on campus and doing that by educating the community about what healthy relationships are, what they look like, what is consent, what essentially like what type of how to foster healthy relationships in life and in business and in career. And as you know, in human resources, right? Like that's what we do. We're the relationship people. At some point in time, I just felt the calling to, do something a little different. Do like stay in the people-oriented work, but do it on my own. And so I started my coaching practice in about mid 2018. So my coaching practice is I Thrive Institute. That's what I'm doing now. I've worked closely with some other coaches in the area. And some other organizations. I'm now partnered with Venture X downtown Orlando, which is exciting.
Joe is the one. Joe Molay is amazing.
Joe Mohay, yep.
Mohay, I said Molay. That'll tell you what kind of day I've had. Sorry, Joe. What is it like though? And I had this question before we went live. A lot of people wanted to know coaching. So what's it like to decide that you want to go down a path, but you obviously weren't a coach before. So what are some of the steps? What did you have to decide? And then I think it takes a lot of courage to go, you know what? I think what insight I have will really help people. So tell us a little bit about that journey on how you finally made the leap to becoming a coach.
Yeah, thank you. So I think I probably spent about the last 2 years in my role really thinking and feeling, like just intuitively feeling like, oh man, I don't think I'm going to be here for that much longer. Like I feel called to do something else and to be in service to people in another way, maybe a way that's more meaningful to me. But I didn't know what that was going to look like. I really had no idea at first. So I first felt like the calling, if you will. And then I started to get clarity around it once I started to ask more questions, which is really how it always works in life, right? Like we start to kind of feel this push or this pull. And if we listen closely enough and we follow it just by getting curious, then you start to figure out the how, you start to figure out the pieces start to come together, people start to enter your world that start to show you the way. So, it wasn't an instantaneous thing. Some people were like, how'd you just up and quit your job? I'm like, what are you talking about?
You thought it through.
I never did that, So, but it was a very conscientious process. I felt it coming. I started asking questions and getting curious. Eventually, I started working with a business coach. And I spent a year in an immersion program in business and relationship coaching program, traveling all over the nation in a cohort of people, learning and growing together, just really immersed in like growing ourselves so that we could be in service to people in the way that we wanted to be one day, right? And even then, like I didn't come out of that year with crystal clear answers.
The coach didn't know everything.
I think that's one of the greatest things about coaching is that and working with a coach, right, is that if you're working with a good coach, your coach is in their process of learning and growing all of the time, right, with the recognition that there is no destination or arrival. You're just in it, right? And being in the
Oh, I love
process
that.
is super fun. It can be scary too, but it's part of life, and it's part of the joy of being in the work. Yeah.
What's your why on coaching? I've had people say, well, set my own schedule. I mean, I've had so many different answers, but what's your why? Why is it you feel like it's your calling to me, coaching is like, it's every combination of best friend, bartender, counselor, your confidant. Coaching, though, there's this whole action to it. You're helping people take the action steps. But what's your why? Why do you do it?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think getting in contact with the why, for one, it gets you to drop into your heart and into your body. But also, like, your why is the thing that's going to drive you when things get hard, and they often do when you're building your own business. So, I'll tell you my answer to that is something that one of my business coaches brought to my attention, which was basically, you have a calling on your life, you have a calling on your spirit to be in service to a certain group of people in a certain kind of way, right? I believe that I have that calling on my life. And if I don't show up in that calling, those people who are waiting for me aren't going to receive the support and the help that they need.
I love that.
Right. So somebody else can say the same exact thing that I'm going to say to them, but they're not going to hear it, because I came here to say that thing to those people. So my coach is essentially saying to me, like, people are suffering because you won't get your shit together and show up. Right.
Now that's a good coach right there.
Right. And to me, I was like, oh my God, like, that just broke my heart, right? Like, I better get my ass in gear and do what I need to do, because I want to be able to show up, not just for myself, my family, my friends, my loved ones, but I want to be able to show up in the world the way that I'm being called to. I want to rise up to that level so that I can be in service to whom I'm supposed to be.
So any fear? What was it like? Was there a moment of trepidation? I mean, obviously you were in the journey, which I love that you shared that, because I think a lot of people go, oh, coaches know everything, so why would I talk to a coach? If you're in the journey, you're in the journey, and I love that you're in your process. But was there fear when you started? Was there trepidation? And if so, how did you overcome that? How did you get past that?
Totally. There's always been fear. Fears still pop up, and I think that any time, and this is, what I coach my clients on, mostly because I've been there, right? So oftentimes we want to wait until we feel confident enough to do a certain thing. And that's not how it works. You have to first do the thing, and then you get the confidence. Then you get the confidence boost of having accomplished that action, right? And taking that action. So when I, because I worked very closely with multiple coaches for over a year, thankfully I had the support during the time period of my business building where I probably was going through the deepest, most, the darkest level of, I would say, of immersion in fear, because I was constantly being in the unknown, right? In spaces, doing things, talking about things, having conversations. Not only about business building, but about my own personal growth and spiritual growth and development that were super scary, right? So that, like, massive expansion process in both areas of my life, like, yeah, I lived in fear constantly, Ted.
But I love that you admit it. I think people need to know that you also are human. You are in this journey with them, and I think it's so important, because I think there are people, you mentioned it, I'll call it the sidelines people, that just stay on the sidelines and wait for the very perfect moment, the perfect time to have kids, the perfect time to switch jobs, the perfect time to get in a new relationship. And they wait on the sidelines their entire lives because they don't have the ability to jump, or they're afraid to make the leap, or a coach Guevara has not come into their lives like she is supposed to. And so people just sit. They sit it out and they wait and they go, ooh, look at the mistakes she made. Well, yeah, you made mistakes. I made mistakes. We also feel like, and I want to ask you about this, the imposter scenario, feeling like, why would anybody listen to me? I am as messed up as they come. But I think that adds to your coaching. If you can, somebody asked me about that, so if you can elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's this idea that as a coach, you have to have no struggle, or be perfect in some way to be able to help people, and that's not true. I think if you're a coach and you believe that, you're in trouble.
Yes.
If you and really, I mean, if you're not a coach and you believe that, you're in trouble, because that's going to keep you from connecting with people and being vulnerable, and having meaningful interactions with individuals. Because now all of a sudden, I'm perfect, you're not. Right. And people are like looking at that like, oh, I can't relate. Nobody can relate with perfection. I don't want to be perfect. I don't want to come across that way. I don't pretend like I am. I make mistakes. I still get scared, and I think as a coach, you have to have a very different mindset. The mindset is essentially, I just have to be somewhere between 1 and 2 steps ahead of my clients, right? I think my clients relate to me better because I have made the mistakes. I have felt the pain. I've made mistakes in relationships. I've went through a divorce. I've been through major health trauma and struggle in my life. I've been through, while I've been very blessed in my life too, I've also had difficulties and struggles that I've had to work through. And I've really have been in the place of like, where my mindset is what made all of the difference.
Huge. It's everything, right? I feel like it's, speaking of Juliana Ormond, I feel like it's everything, the mindset. One of the things I went into when I had got diagnosed with cancer is you can't let that stuff, I'm still going to live my life and I still want to live it to the best that I can. So the mindset has to be positive. We're not saying, and I know Oriana's not saying it either, it's not that it's easy. It's just that when you make that choice, you're constantly being reminded of, look, I'm stronger than this. I'm going to beat it, or I'm stronger than this. I can do the things that people are telling me I can't do, which is why I haven't made my leap. And so it's super important, that mindset, which brings me to the manifestation part. I love this topic, how to manifest high-powered people. So let's talk about that. You came up with the title, and I'm a big manifestation person, law of attraction. You call it whatever you want to call it. I'm a big believer that you call a lot of things into your life based on the belief that they are coming. Why this topic, and why high-powered people? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's less, maybe not necessarily high-powered, but high value. Right. I really believe that we have the power to attract high value relationships. Why don't we attract more high value relationships? Meaning relationships that we, add massive value into our life. Right. And why aren't we doing that more often? Why aren't we doing that on a regular basis? Why don't those people just show up? Right. Well, if they're not just showing up in your life, then there's a reason for that. Right. And I'll be totally frank, Ted, I'm going to be totally frank and say the reason that they're not showing up in your life already, if they're not, is you.
Yes. Accountability, right? It's you. You're the common denominator.
You're the common denominator. You're the only reason that they might not be showing up in your life. Now, I don't say that to make anybody feel bad, right? Because I know that sounds jarring to some people, but it's actually the most empowering statement that I could make to you or anyone who's watching. Right. And the reason is because if I tell you that, you're the reason, then you can change it. You can address the reason when the reason.
Well, first, I'm mad at you for calling me out on the stuff that I already know. Right. I'm not happy with you, but you're right, because people don't want to hear that. They want to hear anything but that.
Yes.
No responsibility. I'm the victim here. I'm the one it's not happening to.
Right.
And you're 1,000% right. I agree. It is such a tough thing to hear, but so important. So when you deliver that message, how does that work? So somebody goes, oh my God, Oriana, you're so full of it. There's absolutely no way on the planet. It's me. It's all these other factors. How do you get them past that?
Yeah. So I don't necessarily jump straight to the place of personal responsibility and accountability, right? Because I know that could be jarring for some people. And so we have to take a little bit of time. Sometimes we have to ease into it. Some people are ready to hear that. Some people aren't ready yet. I think one of the things about my personal coaching style is that I adapt to my client, right? And I meet them where they're at. I don't try to drag them, kicking and screaming anywhere that they're not ready to go yet. So we have a conversation about, what it is in their belief system that is keeping them where they're at. Because the thing is, if you have a desire for more high quality people to enter your life experience, but inside of yourself, you also have belief systems, which could be entirely subconscious, that are like, well, I don't really have much to offer. I don't really have much going on. I don't really know how to keep up a conversation. I'm not really funny. I'm not enough, right? If you're telling yourself that you have nothing to offer, meaning you don't bring value, then you cannot attract high value individuals into your life experience. You have to really I take clients through this journey where they're able to kind of get curious and visualize and really start writing down what they want to experience in the people that they have relationships with, whether they're existing relationships or new relationships, right? So what do you want to experience in those relationships? What do you want to feel in those relationships with people? What do you want them to be like? And then when you make your list of all the things that you'd like to have in the people in your relationships, then ask yourself, do I bring that to the table? Am I those things? Right? So if I want to feel love, if I want to feel courage, if I want to feel accepted in my relationships with people, am I really ready to love people, to engage courageously with people and have difficult conversations? Am I ready to accept people for who they are rather than put pressure on them to change and be different for my gratification? Right.
So what if I'm not? How do you take someone? Because most people will listen to you. I'm an old soul, so, and obviously so are you. But I think that people will hear and go, well, of course I'm ready. But you and I both know that's not true. Most people think they're ready. And then that's why they begin questioning, and why they sometimes will reach out to a coach, is because their way is not working. And they can't figure out why what they're doing is not working yet. They're saying things like, I'm ready for new opportunities, when they're not. They say things like, I want to get out of this toxic relationship, or I want to build a business, or whatever it is that's on their plate. And in reality, the message that they're sending out to the world, to their heart, to their soul, is the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, it's our words, I tell people, our words and our behavior, our actions leave clues. So for on one side, for a person to say, I'm ready for my life partner, I'm ready for my next big career move, I'm ready for my awesome business partner to show up. And then on this side to say, but it's not here, but it's not coming, but they're not out there, but there's no good men, there's no good women, right? Like you have what's called a competing intention, right? You want something, which means you're focused on the scarcity of that thing in your life. And on the other side, you're saying, it's not out there. I can't find it. It hasn't shown up yet. And our words are so powerful, Ted. Everything that we say becomes our reality. So if you're saying, I want it, meaning I don't have it, right? And you're also saying, it's not here yet, you're basically like putting that out into the world and just acknowledging what is your truth, that it's not there.
You're manifesting the thing that you don't want to manifest if you're focusing on the negative. So people who don't believe in the power of manifestation, I always kind of get a chuckle, because they're already doing it. It's just in the negative and they don't realize it. If they would just shift or pivot to the positive. Am I saying you're going to have $1 million tomorrow? No. I'm just saying that if you just shifted away from your constant negativity that you are manifesting more negativity with, and made it positive, it would be so powerful for people. But I feel like people get caught up in what's comfortable. What do they know? They know the negativity, they know the outcome, they know exactly what to expect, and that's exactly what they're going to get.
Well, and about 80% of our thoughts and our self-talk is negative, right? And all of our negative self-talk and negative thoughts come from disempowering and limiting belief systems, which comes from a place of us being out of alignment with our values. So what ends up happening is, we start to tell ourselves all these negative things, and then we start to feel bad, right? Because you can't tell yourself negative things and then not again manifest, right? Because we're all such powerful creators. We can just manifest inside of our bodies bad feelings by telling ourselves bad things in our mind. Do you see how powerful we are? So once we feel bad, then we go and engage in negative behaviors, or we don't engage in behaviors at all, right? We paralyze ourselves from taking action. So let's say I'll go to a networking event and I'll meet some great people and I'll have every intention of following up with them. But as soon as it's over, my negative thoughts start to stir around and I don't follow up with the great people that I met. Well, how can I move myself powerfully into meaningful, healthy relationships if I don't actually take the effort to follow up with people after I meet them, right? That's an essential step. Or to go to these places where I could meet people who would be like-minded individuals and who would like the things that I like, right? So when
I love that.
I ask them, what are you doing? What are the actions you're taking to find high-value people? And in many cases, they're not doing much or anything at all.
They sit. So I'll bring people to. I don't. People will tell me I don't do networking events. Of course, this is pre-COVID, and I will say why. Well, nobody ever talks to me. Right then and there, I know what the problem is. I mean, they have already determined nobody's going to talk to them, and so I coach people. I'm not an official coach like you, but I will help people. That's my word for it. And I'm like, well, but why? Nobody said anything. This is a brand new networking event. Why are you already setting yourself up to have a bad time and have failure? For them, that's what they know. That is the comfortable, easy way, even though it's not going to help them attain their goals. It's an easy skin for them to wear.
Yeah.
And it just becomes the way of life and the way to do things. And I'm like, come with me. I promise you will not have a bad time. That's because I go knowing I'm going to have a good time.
Yeah.
I don't care if I don't meet anybody. I'm still going to have a good time and it's still going to be productive because you set your mind up for that. You set everything up for it to be. You manifest that positivity and that productivity.
Well, and you're calling out what it is that the energy with which you are going to interact and behave with people, right? Like if I'm going to go to a networking event, I could think to myself, nobody's going to talk to me and make myself feel bad, which when I show up in that negative energy space, I'm probably right. Nobody's going to talk to me because they can feel me. They can feel my negativity. Whereas I could just as easily tell myself, I'm going to go to this event and I'm going to be the life of the party. Like I'm going to talk to everybody and I'm going to have a good time. Now, even if I don't actually get to do that, if I tell myself that before I attend this event, I show up, like I literally walk through the door with a totally different energy space.
You own that place.
Yes. And all of a sudden I don't even need to talk to anyone because they're talking to me.
It's the power. That's exactly right. When you walk into a room, I can always tell the person who's charismatic or has that attraction going on because that is whom everybody in the room is drawn to. There's this light that you can't explain that everybody wants to go to because they feel that energy, and anyone can create that. You just have to practice at it, which is what I sort of want to begin to wrap up on, is the practicing. So manifestation for you and I, because we've been doing it for a while, we get it. How does somebody start? If they're listening, which we have a lot of listeners, if they're listening and they go, all right, I want to be positive. I have no earthly idea how to do it. Can you give them a step or two on some things that they might be able to change or shift?
Okay, so one of the exercises that I do with people is I have them really bring to the table like 2 or 3 current belief systems that they have about themselves as it relates to relationships. So it could be like, I don't have a lot to offer. I'm not very good at conversations, and maybe I get nervous, So bring those 3, what I would call limiting beliefs, to the table, right? And then pick some better feeling thoughts, instead of I get nervous, just say something else, right? Like, I'll do my best, instead of thinking to yourself, I can't really keep up a conversation, say to yourself, like, I'll talk with as many people as I can for as long as it lasts, and that's okay. Just pick a better feeling thought, right? You don't have to go from I can't keep up a conversation to I'm going to be the best orator in the room.
Right. Don't put that pressure on yourself.
Right. And it's not necessary, right? Like you can just think to yourself, I'm going to talk to one or two people for as long as they engage, just pick a better feeling thought and then get into the space of that feeling, right? So within yourself, and then think to yourself, how do I want people to feel when they interact with me?
Oh, right? I like that.
Feel that feeling. Actually, get that feeling into your body, embody that. And then you will be more likely to manifest that with the people that you engage with when you show up in that embodiment and with that intention.
I love that, because I think that people forget that particular part of it. So if you go, I'm a big believer in it can't all be about you. So if you go in and you determine up front, this is how I want people to feel when they interact with me, what a powerful, positive way to change the entire dynamic of how you're going to interact with people. Because if people leave and they remember you for how they felt when you were around, there's that whole Maya Angelou thing that I believe she said that somebody did, and people remember that. They never forget that, and how powerful that is. That is such a great point. I love that. All right, so
I went through that process for my business, for my branding, for myself. I thought to myself, how do I want people to feel when they interact with me on social media, in person, right? Because I want that to be a consistent feeling. So I want people to feel loved. I want people to feel accepted, and I want people to feel heard when they interact with me and my brand and my business, right? And
I've never said that out loud, but that is so powerful. That is such a nugget. I always take a nugget away from everything, because that's how in my mind I want people to feel, but I've never spoken it. I just assume that's how it's going to be. I mean, I'm years into practicing this, but how powerful if you say it up front. I want people to feel loved. I want people to feel respected. I want people to feel comfortable. I want people to feel safe. There's lots of ways that you can just put it out there in the universe. And guys, trust me, it's not just me. Oriana's going to back me up on this. It happens. Does it happen immediately? I don't know. For me, it did. But for some people, it takes a little practice, and that's okay. Don't be so hard on yourself. Like Oriana said, and rightly so, you can't just make the leap from Eeyore to, I don't know, Piglet, or who is the one that dances around? Tigger. You've got to try to take a little bit of steps and work your way through that manifestation.
Yeah. And for those of you who have been in the manifestation game for a while, I will challenge you. Do that exercise about deciding how you want people to feel when they interact with you and your brand, if you're a business, right? But then also ask people after they interact with you, ask them how they felt, right? Like just see what they come up with, right? Because, and see if they use any of the words that you decided that you wanted people to feel. And
that's good.
Once they start telling you, like, yes, I felt really affirmed in this space, or I felt loved, or I felt whatever it is that you decided, you are going to feel like, right? Like it's going to be mind-boggling.
Such a good point. All right. So anybody who's listening, I want you to do that. And then I want you to report back. All right. So how do we reach you? If somebody is watching and going, I got to have more of this, I need to find out what else Oriana has going on. Tell us what the best way.
Okay, so my website is coachoriana.com. I'm on social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find me at Coach Oriana. That's my handle. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well, Oriana Guevara. I have an event coming up September 1st. I have a workshop. It's called Create a Relationship Vision to Thrive in Your Life, Business, and Career.
Nice.
So if you've never created a vision for the types of relationships you want to have in these different aspects of your life, that's why you're not getting there. So we're going to actually do this during this 2-hour workshop. It's on September the 1st. I'm going to post the link to it in this same feed so everybody has it. That's a paid workshop, but I have a free networking event coming up September 17th. Both of these events are taking place at Venture X downtown Orlando, but they're also available via live streaming webcast on ViewStub. So it doesn't matter where you are nationwide, you can join too. I also have a Meetup group. It's called Power Couples and Singles of Orlando. So if you go to meetup.com, you can find Power Couples and Singles of Orlando. And then lastly, I want to mention that I have a new book coming out, Ted. I'm so excited.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you. My new book is called The Brave New Masculine, Liberating Men to Heal, Restore, and Strengthen Their Relationships with Women. If you text the word brave to 55444, brave to 55444, you will get a link to the page where you will find my pre-order crowdfunding campaign. It's active until August 31st. I'm taking pre-orders, and I need as many as I can get to ensure that this message gets into the world.
I love that. I love everything about you, Joe. You were 100% right. She's amazing. I really, really want people to engage you. So Oriana's going to put all of that in there. I'll share it as well. You've got an event coming up, a book launch, and a workshop. You have lots going on, but here's what you can't make up is the love and the positive energy that you put out. And so, guys, if you are dying for that, hungry for it, starving, thirsty, you definitely want to reach out to Coach Guevara. Thank you so much for being on the show and taking time out. You're amazing.
Thank you for having me, Ted. This was so much fun. I knew it would be. I decided in advance.
I decided, yes. See, guys, super simple steps. Super simple steps. And you can go to Oriana to learn more about those. Thank you, guys. We'll be back tomorrow or Thursday. Reach out to Oriana. She's just as wonderful and as accessible as she is on this show. Y'all have a good one. Bye, guys.